good morning, or good afternoon, because for you it's afternoon
Yes.
in Canada. So good afternoon. Alrighty, they're coming fast and furious. Very good. All right. So our lunch and learn today is we have a special treat. It's a panel. We've never done a panel before, so this is the first for all of us. And it is with a focus on Canada. So we have two SOA Canada candidates, and then we have a soon-to-be FSA. She is currently an ASA. Her name is Jelitza Phillips, and she is an actuarial associate with RBC Insurance in the Group Risk Management Division. We also have Robert Dobos, who is the co-president of the Actuarial Student Association at York University in Canada. And then we also have Asso Makhoulian. He is an SOA candidate, and he also holds a BS in mathematics and an MS focus on finance and actuarial science. But I will let them talk about themselves a little bit and tell you how they found the actuarial profession, how they got interested. And I will open it up for you to ask questions. In the bottom of the screen, you see a Q&A, and you can enter any questions you have about anything, the profession, the exams, and anything that you can think of. If not in the Q&A, you can also put it in the chat, but the Q&A probably is easier. So why don't we kick it up with you, Jelitza?
Okay, so I can share a little bit about myself. As you mentioned, I am with RBC Insurance, specifically Group Risk Management. I am on the capital team. And so what that means is that my team is responsible for supporting all the modeling and the projections and reporting related to regulatory capital for RBC Insurance. So that's what I do now. In the past, I've worked with another insurance company as well as a consulting firm in Jamaica as well as Barbados before I came to Canada. So I was doing a bit of retirement work before the work I'm doing now. In terms of how I became interested in becoming an actuary, this probably happened when I was like 14 years old. My mom worked for an insurance company and she was surrounded by actuaries. So she introduced me to those people, and I became very interested after I realized I wasn't interested in medicine anymore. So that's how I decided I wanted to become an actuary. And I guess probably a cool or fun fact about me is that I am from Jamaica. I was born and raised there. I did all my actuarial studies there, and my first actuarial job was there in Jamaica. And so that was a good foundation for me. I don't think a lot of people know that there is an official actuarial program in Kingston, Jamaica. So that's a fun fact. And I'm also very passionate about fitness, which gets me through, all the stressful days that are required for studying and working in the actuarial profession. The fitness keeps me grounded. So I won't say too much, but I'll just leave it there. And then if anyone has any questions or wants me to talk about anything else specific, then I'll give you the chance to ask that question specifically. Martha, I think you're muted.
I am muted. You're right.
Okay, go ahead.
Asso, do you want to follow Jelitza and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Definitely, I would like to. So, hi everyone. It's very impressive to hear about you, Jelitza. So, for my case, my parents they didn't know about anything about the actuarial. They can't even pronounce it yet. So it was so funny. My journey. Well, when I was studying in the university as a mathematics student, I had no idea about the actuarial world. I wanted to go initially something into like financial engineering, like something risk modeling. Really intrigued me by the idea, but I went in to go to do math all the way, but then I discovered that I had a program which also uses mathematics and statistical tool to apply in the insurance and in the modeling field, which I also like programming from the beginning. So this is what I push the students to go through, because these skills of the actuarial profession are needed so much in the field today that now that I'm in the market, I can see how it is important someone to have the skills of the programming and also to link the risk management with the mathematical concepts. So it's very fun to work this job that I am into right now. I'm working as a senior market risk analyst with the company, which we do commodities trading all over the world. And my skills that I come with the background from the Society of Actuaries, being also like taking the exams at the same time, I use those information that I learn while doing the exams or while preparing for these exams. I use them every day. Well, I'm not trying to exaggerate here, but I can say that Society of Actuaries has given me a lot in my professional career. All the stuff that I have learned in university have reinforced on those and have given me much broader knowledge and how I can apply this in the real world that we're gonna face after graduating. I'm gonna give also like time for the others also to introduce themselves, and I will just focus on one of my favorite hobbies that I like to do is astrophotography, and I'm gonna say that it's not just like putting your camera and trying to capture like those stars or those galaxies. This is like how the actuarial profession has also helped me to get specialized in this, because astrophotography is about gathering data and working on this data and understanding how you can stack those images, to get the final result, which is somehow so similar of the way that I work with the gathering data of the risk management models that I do. Not entirely similar, but the methodology of approaching it is somehow the same. Thank you, everyone, and let's continue.
Thank you so much. I love all your hobbies and all the things that you guys do. Robert, why don't you share with us a little bit about you?
Sure, Marta. Thanks for the introduction. So my name's Robert. I'm a third-year actuarial science major from York University. I expect to graduate after next year. Fingers crossed, anything can happen. I was first introduced to actuarial science by my parents back when I was in about the 11th or 12th grade, and the big question of what do I want to do after high school would be like, what are my post-secondary visions in my own education and in my career? So they had suggested that I look into actuarial science and even consider it as a major. Here I am 3 years later, and I don't think I could have made a better decision in terms of what I want out of what I learn and what I hope to practice. A few interesting things about me is I've been playing guitar for about almost 4 years now, 3.5, 4 years, and I'm almost as good as when I started. So guitar is quite a beast. It's not too easy. I love driving. I drive stick shift. I actually don't really drive much automatic because I don't really know how to. Like my hand feels so strange without doing anything, and my left foot especially. I actually came into university, my first year was like fully remote. So coming into that, I didn't get much of an opportunity to frankly meet like fellow York University students in my own major, because like everyone is just, they had their screens off, and it was like a Zoom call of like first year calculus, 100 plus people. You didn't really get a sense of who was in actuarial science and who wasn't. And when second year rolled around, with less restrictions and more access to in-person events and meetings, I actually found like a great deal of success attending, in particularly ASNA, and also SOA Candidate Connect 2022. I met so many friendly and like-minded students, as well as professionals who I was able to connect with and have given me invaluable advice in terms of exams and future networking. Thank you.
Very, very cool. I was laughing. You couldn't hear me when you said you were as good when you when you started, but you keep trying. That's all that matters. So I don't see any questions yet, but I have lots of questions for all of you. So Jelitza, I want to know a little bit, do you want to share maybe what you do on a regular day? What are some of the things that you do as an actuary on a regular day?
So I can't say that every day looks the same. That's the truth. And I think that's actually a good thing because then I would be quite bored. But for regulatory capital reporting, it's a quarterly process. So usually at least 1 out of every 3 months is dedicated to quarterly reporting. So what does that mean? That means that we are looking at the different risks that the insurance company is facing. Those are pretty standard and set out, but based on how the business is moving, the amount of required capital that we have to hold changes. So the reserve amount changes, we get new business, people terminate, there's movement in the business, right? So we have to reassess the amount of required capital every quarter. And so that requires running models, getting the results, analyzing those results, and preparing new numbers for senior management to review and to sign off. So 1 out of every 3 months, I'm either doing some of the reporting work or reviewing it and preparing and summarizing the results for management. So on the off days that there's no quarterly reporting required, like the other 2 months, it could be anything. There's usually like some special projects involved where either we have to do some kind of monitoring of the LICAT ratio, the capital ratio, kind of like try to see how the ratio will be impacted by future interest rate movements, for example. Another thing that has come up recently is IFRS 17, which is a new accounting standard. We've had to do a lot of analysis relating to how the new accounting standard will impact the capital, whether we will need more capital, whether we need to make any adjustments. Lots of adjustments are required. So there's a lot of testing and analysis on a daily basis. I would say that's the majority of my work. Another very important part of my work, which I most enjoy, is communicating with senior management. So that means that, all the stuff I just described is actually pretty complicated, very intricate, very interwoven. Many different things affect another. So a part of my role is to break these complex ideas and analysis down into very simple terms so that the senior management can understand exactly what we're facing here and what the decisions are that we need to make. And so preparing communication, having meetings, doing presentations that kind of boil down all those complicated analysis down to simplified terms is another huge part of what I do. And I really enjoy that part because it makes me really think, like kind of use another part of my brain. Okay, like get rid of the complex explanations and just tell them exactly what they need to know. And also try to anticipate what they may ask, because when you're talking to a chief risk officer or a chief operating officer, some kind of senior director, they don't care about all of the spreadsheets and the models that you just ran and 100 years projections and all of those interest rate vectors. They just want to get to the bottom line. So that's a very interesting part of my role as well.
That is so interesting. We have a question. I am a student in business administration and I am interested in actuarial science. I wish to know the steps to take. Thank you. Asso, you have a very specific journey. You are managing a full-time work with your exams and your family. What would you say to somebody that wants to move into actuarial science from
Yes.
business administration?
Definitely. I mean, if they have the interest and they like, the mathematical approach and the programming approach of the actuarial field, I would definitely highly recommend it. I wanted to ask a question to Robert. Like, probably he will also like try to shed light more on this thing, because when I was a student in the university, I never took the actuarial exams during my university years. This also probably applies to Jelitza if she has taken the exams during her university years. But I would be interested, like how a student could maximize their time to be able to keep up with their university courses, studying, and also like if they wanted to do the exams. But on the other hand, guys, don't feel pressured. There's nothing, no one pressuring you to finish everything, to get all your A's, to get all your grades high in order to be able to find a job. No, there are other skills which are highly required in the industry, and I'm so happy that the SOA is currently working on these. They have a lot of programs online, not necessarily on the examinations, but like if you sign up to the affiliate program that they have like some free courses, how to do the Python programming, or how to learn how to gain the skills required other than the exams being passed in order to be hired as an actuarial analyst. So my first job as an actuarial analyst that I got hired, I hadn't had passed any of the exams for the Actuarial Society of the Actuarial Pathway. But I mean, during the discussion, my manager asked me like, "Are you interested to do the exams?" I told them, "Yeah, definitely," but I didn't have any required sources. So during my work hours, it wasn't easy, I would say, like working from 8 to 5 and then going home and then studying for 2 hours or 3. It could be hard, definitely, but for students also it could be hard. So I would like Robert also to give some point on this. And if someone definitely wants to transition from the business administration, with working with actuarial field in the actuarial field, you just need one thing, which is committed to thinking with the actuarial approach. Like if the person hiring you sees that you have the critical approach, they wouldn't care if you're so good with all the actuarial terms, if you're so good with the up-to-date information. It's just the approach that you want to solve problems, that you want to create the solutions. Robert, it's too.
So to answer your question on how and when you should look to start applying and developing, I think the number one piece of college advice would be don't skip class, go to your lectures, because there you actually get a chance to be with people who are on your level, like fellow students, as well as the fact that you have an opportunity to ask any questions. You should never be shy to ask your professor or your classmates questions, because you learn how to communicate your ideas. And let's say that they don't understand you, then you have to reword what you wanted to ask them. You start learning different communication styles with different people and how to express yourself to everybody, and as well as get on like a sort of studying schedule, because you will have to do like some homework as well as classwork. So I attempted my first actuarial exam right after my first semester of second year, because I believe York, as well as a lot of universities across Canada, offer their like preparatory FM as well as P sort of course, like the intro to probability and stats and intro to financial mathematics. So I came off of that, and to be honest with you, I had to do a lot of supplementary studying with outside resources. Like I had to find books, I had to find practice exams, and I had to study for about a month or two. But I after a month or two of studying what seemed like something I was stuck on chapter 1, unit 1, time value of money. I'm like, this makes no sense. And then I got it after constantly trying, and I ended up studying through the whole curriculum. I wrote my FM, and I passed that. So I guess the number one advice would be is use the momentum from college. Use your network, use your classes to uh, put yourself into an advantageous position where you have the knowledge, or your knowledge is not starting from nothing. You know a lot of the prerequisite FMMP knowledge. So all you need to do after that is just supplement that, and you should definitely try an exam. Like that's what I think.
Can I just add as well to what Asso and Robert has said, to just, I think the person who asked the question was Jodine. I see that Jodine mentioned that she is currently studying business administration. So I just want to agree with what both Asso and Robert are saying. Yes, I would recommend trying an exam while you're still studying in university, if you have the time, or if you're able to make the time, because there is an advantage of that. It gets harder when you start working. Working is more demanding than university, I found. And I also sat my first exam like in my final year of university. However, I do know that she's studying business administration, and so there might not be like the foundational courses for P and FM, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible. There's the material is out there, and the SOA's syllabus is very clear. So I think once you take those resources and kind of just sit down with them and process them and kind of give yourself a timeline, there are different schedules for exams. So you can decide, okay, I'm going to do it in May or I'm going to do it in July. I'm not sure exactly what the schedules are. But if you prepare and say, okay, here we are today in November 2023, maybe I could start preparing for next year, like give yourself 6 months, maybe, since you have to start from scratch, and then just kind of work towards it, use the resources and work towards it. But again, as Asso had mentioned, it's not a huge disadvantage if you try to get into the actuarial field without any exams. That's also possible, as long as you're able to articulate your transferable skills and kind of just get in there and get the support from your employer. I see that Asso
I think
wanted to add
Asso
something.
had you had your hand raised. Do you have anything to add?
Would you allow me to answer the next question? Like, I don't want to take anybody's.
Yeah, let me just
place,
read it
but-
for everybody.
Perfect.
Freda says, I want to know if any of the panelists has failed any of the exams before, and if yes, what motivated them to write again? I did actuarial science as an undergraduate, and I want to do master's in actuarial science, but keep failing the exams, and it's really depressing. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, and knowing that where I am from, I can get into graduate school if I don't have at least one paper. This is actually a very common question, so I'm very interested in hearing from all of you. So Asso, you had your hand raised, so why don't you go first, and then Robert and Jelitza, if you have anything to add, please go ahead.
So I understand feeling. It's very hard and it's very depressing after all the hours that you're putting in and you're seeing that you're not getting the results that you wished for. And this happened with me. And when I took my first exam, exam P, and I was working at the same time, so I failed that. And failing my first actual exam, like I was like, I went to the exam, I felt I did so well. I was thinking about how I'm gonna take the second exam and so on. But then later on, I discovered that I actually failed. And when I checked my grade, I got only 3 out of 10. I was very surprised. I retook the exam after 6 months and studied and everything. And when I did the exam, I felt like I didn't do so well, and I failed again. And I checked again my grade, and it was again 3. So both of the exams, one I felt like I did so well, and the second one I felt like I didn't do well. But surprisingly, I got the same grade. So this is when I got my interest to seeing like how to approach studying for the actual exams. And I'm gonna tell you, like, this is not similar the way that you approach preparing for your university exams. It helped me, like preparing for the actual exam sitting helped me in many stuff in my life. Understanding discipline, understanding the importance of having a schedule, understanding that you have an end goal, and every day, everything that you do, even if you're just studying for 20 minutes a day, that is contributing to an overall goal in 6 months later on. Because if I'm putting, let's say, 1 hour today, in 6 months it's going to be 180 days, so it's going to be like 180 hours. So in order to pass an actual exam, you need to study, let's say, for above 200 hours. Even though there are people who challenge this thought, there are some books which have helped me like facilitate the process of the studying. I highly recommend them, like taking the actual exams. You will find a lot of content online, definitely. But just know one thing, that everybody is there to help you, and you will be able to find like whatever you need online and to get forward with your exams.
Thank you for sharing that. So I think I can add to it as well. I didn't fail my first exam, but I think I've written about maybe total both pre-ASA and FSA exams, maybe a total of like 11 exams or so. I can't really remember. But for all except about 3 of them, I failed all of them at least once. And there was one that was pre-ASA that I felt pretty stuck. And so I can relate to it feeling depressing. And there were a lot of tears, there was a lot of frustration. And, you know, the pre-ASA exams, at that time, it was like multiple choice. So you just go in there, you're feeling prepared, and you just kind of do what you think you're supposed to do. And then the results came fail. I got like maybe a 3, and then I got 2 5s. And you know, a 5 is just before a 6. So that failing with a 5 is extremely frustrating. But what I found helps me, I presume that Freda, sorry if I mispronounced, is doing the preliminary exams, like pre-ASA. One of the things that stuck with me for those exams and like learning from the failures would be like, don't practice until you are getting it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. So be that confident when you're doing the practice exams in preparation for your exam, that you are almost sure, like really close to 100% sure, that you will not get the concepts wrong. Another thing that I found was very helpful is like the approach for the second time or the third time. Try to forget that you sat it 1 time or 2 times, and not rely on that that foundation that you have. Like technically it's still there, but it can give you a false sense of security. Like, oh, I already sat this, so I don't really have to study that much, or I don't have to put in that much work or that much effort. But it's not true. Kind of reevaluate, like reset your mindset completely for the next sitting, almost as if you're sitting it for the first time. Don't give yourself too much grace and rest on the laurels and the fact that you already know it, because that can be very deceitful. And just one more thing I guess I would add is a support system is very, very important. So I can say that I have friends and family who knew nothing about actuarial science, but every time I went to them and told them I failed, they would always say, don't worry, you'll get it next time. They would always encourage me. They would always ask me when the next sitting is, and they would help me pull the pieces together to prepare to attack this again. So I will say that it really pays off to keep going, because even if you pass on the 4th time, which has happened to me with one exam before, nothing will compare to that feeling of passing. You'll forget all the times you failed, and it will pay off eventually.
Robert, do you have anything to add?
So what I'll say is, as a student, the exams they seem like a double-edged sword, in the sense that you know that you want or you have to write them and you would like to write them, but when you first look over the syllabus, you're like, how am I going to fit all of this into my memory? Like, it seems quite daunting. And me personally, I actually the aforementioned prerequisite university courses that I was talking about that actually help motivate the thinking for those preliminary exams, I didn't do quite well in them. So I actually had to do a lot of my own supplementary studying. And at first, 3 months before each respective exam, I was like, oh, how am I going to do this? I really felt kind of I honestly felt that I had reached the end of the road. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm not smart enough for this anymore. Um, and what I found, that the number one way to counteract that is not only active studying, but inactive studying. So just like muscles, your brain needs rest I think, to store information and to build those synapse processes and truly strengthen them. Because what I found was that if I study for an hour or more a day, when I was asleep, it felt like I was kind of thinking over what I had discussed in the previous day. And it was almost like sleeping on a subject really helped institute a deeper connection with me and what I had learned in the previous day. So, like, good rest and healthy sleep is almost as vital as effective studying.
Yes, very, very interesting. We have one more question. If any of you can stick around, or if all of you can stick around for this one more question. Let me see. I need to read it because otherwise for the recording they won't be able to see it. I am currently pursuing undergraduate courses for the completion of a bachelor's degree in actuarial math with finance, with graduation projected in winter of 2024. I am interested in pursuing the actuarial profession in Canada or possibly more broadly in North America. Currently, I have not completed any SOA exams. I recently learned that at least 2 of these exams would be necessary to receive VEE accreditation. So I decided to start studying for the P exam, which I intend to follow with the FM exam to secure those accreditations. This was the initial strategy I had decided to take on. I am curious about how to proceed from here regarding preparing for the exams and this context of the newly introduced capstone exam that is offered by the Canadian Institute of Actuaries. In your opinion, what do you think is the best direction to take regarding these exams and or the capstone exam? Any of you can answer this.
Yeah, I can understand the confusion, the different pathways. It's a lot to digest. So I'm going to try to take a stab at this, but it's going to be, I'm just disclaimer, it's going to be a bit generic. Because the CIA exams and the CIA pathways are fairly new. And because I'm already at the end of my exam journey, I'm not really too familiar with the CIA pathways. And the SOA pathways have changed up a bit, quite a bit in the last few years. But what I can say is that if you decide to go with the SOA exams, then at some point you will be able to get credit for those SOA exams on the CIA side of things. So I think you should pick, if you haven't started already, you're at an advantage, so you can decide if you want to go fully with the CIA or fully with the SOA. But if you decide to go with the SOA, then the information about the pathways is like clearly laid out, and you will be going in the right direction by doing P and then FM and then taking it from there. I think you'd have like maybe about four more exams before your ASA. But if you do find any confusion on the SOA website, I can say that if you write an email or pick up the phone and call them, then you will be able to get responses. They will be able to provide some guidance and to clarify exactly what you need to do.
Sorry, if I can add in. So in terms of VEEs, what you can do about that, or what I would recommend that you actually do about that, because this is what I had to do, is depending on your university, it may not just be the one course for the VEE. Like it may be a 2 or 3 part VEE where you have to take 2 or 3 courses in your university. Like I know for York, the accounting and finance VEE is made up of 3 courses rather than 1 or 2. So make sure if that's something that you want to knock out during university, because you can also do it outside of university. You can, I believe you can just privately study for and apply for your VEEs. But if it's something that you want to take care of in parallel with your undergraduate courses, you can go on the SOA website and you can see what it recognizes from your school for each VEE so that you know what to take.
Thank you. I put my email address. If anybody has any further questions that they want me to forward to Robert or Jelitza or Asso, I can do that for you. But we have reached the end of our Canadian focused Lunch and Learn. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming and for all your questions. And as I said, if you have any further questions, just send them to me and I will make sure that our panelists can answer them. Thank you and have a wonderful weekend, all of you.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye.